5 W's in an H. Who, what, where, when, why, how, and let's start with who. So my name is Giorgio Pauletto. I work with the Technology Observatory team. It's a group that does technological and strategic watch and advises the IT department for the state of Geneva. It's a public administration, and what we do is try to understand what are the links and how technology and society actually influence each other. And we have a chief information officer that is smart enough to hire guys at and we try to incubate change, and that's a big challenge in public administration, and also to drive innovation inside the public administration of the Canton of Geneva. So let me tell you a little bit more about where. It's the Canton of Geneva. I don't know how many of you know the Canton, but well, that's the coat of arms of our Canton, and it's in Switzerland. So that's a map. Actually, it comes from Wikipedia, and so that's poor man's Google Earth. That's what it looks like in a sunny day. And we're the home of many international organizations. That's the UN. We also host the CERN, which is a great organization that is launching the LHC just in a few days. And we also home of many private bankers. So what do we do? What do we offer? We have developed the IT strategy for the IT department of the Canton, and we try to provide technological and societal watch for the IT department and for the other departments. We try to foster a very holistic view of IT, not only the technical part. We have many developers, many Java, and a lot of project managers, but I'm not an IT guy. I come from a completely different field. And so why do we do that? And how and when will we do that, and how we will do it? Well, first of all, let me talk a little bit about the open source and open standards. Everything happened more or less after a few months that we were hired. Microsoft announced that they wouldn't support Windows NT after December 31st, 2004, I think. And so in 2003, they asked us to write a report about what was going on and what decisions they should make. And we just tell them, if you have to make a decision, you have to have options, and you have to have alternatives. And they didn't have any alternatives at that time. So the idea was to kind of develop a larger IT strategy that would lower the barriers and that would give them kind of choices. So in November 2006, there was a government executive decision that said that we would foster the use of open source in all the canton for the government. And just now, in April of 2008, we have a project that deploys Ubuntu on all the education desktops. And this is still to come, but it's getting there. So in 2009, 2010, and this, what I'm telling you is just the visible part, because of course, okay, I'll tell you a little bit more after. There's a project to kind of study many alternatives and of an open source desktop. And of course, what is going on behind the scenes is much more than what's happening on the desktop. So we managed to kind of push the change to have all the Java frameworks, for instance. They're using old frameworks that are now open source. The application server is completely open source. So we're trying to push that very hard also behind the scenes, and not only the end user is going to be the last change, if you like. The content management systems and everything has to be also on the open standards and open source side. What shaped also a lot of our ideas for this IT strategy is a paper by the Berkman Center that you maybe know. It's the roadmap of for open ICT ecosystems. There are plenty of wonderful ideas in this paper, and I recommend it really hard. The strategic issues that we try to focus on are three. First of all, that technology for a government should be there to serve society, and we shouldn't, bring out technology just for technology's sake. Second is that information is really a strategic resource of the 21st century. So we should really make the most of it, and especially information that is stored in governments should be shared and also given back to citizens and businesses. And the third one is that we want to be independent for our information systems. So we don't want to depend on a single monopoly, and we want to be able to kind of also foster a local development of businesses. So all this, more or less, what we'd like to do is also to foster this idea of an open and an open ecosystem that is based on information that would give also lots of work to local businesses. So what are the tactical elements that come out of these three pillars, the three main pillars? Well, first of all, we have to have interoperability, and that's not something really easy in a big setting like a government environment. We have, it's not huge, but we have like 500 servers, 20,000 desktops to manage. We have also lots of phones and things like that. So to have interoperability between all the pieces of these information systems is sometimes hard. This goes through a lot through open standards. And of course, open standards have to be, well, the best thing that could happen is that open standards would be implemented in open source software. We also aim towards a services-oriented architecture for all our systems. And the last tactical element is that in everything, in every development we try to do, what has to be done is to try to move data and to transform it into knowledge so that, public servants, but also citizens can make the most of the data that is available. So what are the lessons learned? And, in 10 minutes it's really, really short. So I'll just show you one graph that we used during our project that I think could be useful for any kind of project that you guys want to do. It's a bit complicated, but I'll explain it. So you have like two axes. One is the antagonism you get from people, and the second one is the energy you get from them. And what you get is really a lot of people are apathetic about your project. You have like 40 to 80% of the people that just don't care, and it doesn't really matter. Then you have grouches, people that are always dissatisfied, but they don't have a lot of energy, so you shouldn't spend too much time with them. You have also people that are clearly opponents of the project, and what happens usually is that we spend too much time trying to convince them. And there's not an easy way to convince them if you're the leader of the project. Then you have rebels, and those guys have, they're kind of fairly energetic, so you should contain them. But one of the worst kind is the torn people. They would love to do the project, but in a completely different way. So you have to be careful with these guys. I think the best kind is the golden triangle. These guys kind of are critics, but they're also very constructive. And they have lots of energy. So we worked a lot with these guys, and the persons that are involved are actually very useful, but they need a clear direction and clear goals on what to do. So my advice, at least what I learned also personally, is that, as I told you before, we spend a lot of time trying to convince these guys. And that's not worth it, because they won't listen to you. So what I suggest to do is to work a lot with the golden triangle and the involved people to kind of turn around the skeptics that are here in the middle. Because once you turn those, it's like a martial arts move, right? Once you get the balance of these guys, then the rest usually follows. So that's, like the little piece of graphic information I'd like to give you. So, what else did we learn? Well, education is an excellent driver. These guys are usually very open to changes, and it's also aiming at younger generations. So those are the guys that will actually bring in and bring at home lots of things. And you know, if we work with those, they will bring in, even inside the administration, this kind of feeling and these kind of habits, and that's very good. Then start with where most of the maturity is. So infrastructure development is really where the tools are really good now, and the desktop is getting there. But you know, it's not maybe the first part that one should change. Communicate internally, and that's something that we're not really good at. It takes a lot of effort, but it's really important to get you know, people know what you do, and maybe to show them and to have them try hands-on what is going on. And be patient, very patient, especially in a government setting. So what are the next steps? Well, my idea, and this is just an idea that I'd like to share with you guys tonight, is to go beyond open standards and open source. And since we want to build a knowledge society, as we've seen also in the previous examples, we also live in a service-based economy. It makes a lot of sense to kind of try to open data, because all the services that are, you know, popping up also need basic data, like geographical data, like disease data, and all of this data is usually also collected by governments. In the USA, and correct me if I'm wrong, that usually I think the data that is collected federally is not copyrightable. But what's the case with local and state data? In Europe, there is a directive that...
the U.S. data is not copyrightable.
Okay.
Only creative works are copyrightable.
I see. Well, that's very good. Europe, I don't think it's the case. There is a directive on the public reuse of information, but you know, it's a very timid directive, and actually the member states should implement laws, and that's something that will take a lot of time. And Switzerland is not even the EU, so you know, it's something. I like this sentence that is taken from a blog of The Guardian called "Free Our Data," that says that our taxes actually fund the collection of public data, and yet we have to pay them to access it, and making it freely available stimulates innovation. So I think that's a very important problem that we have, and one we should really think about. I know it's a little bit bold to say that, because especially if you work in government, there are lots of steps, but maybe, you know, with enough conviction and efforts we could get there, and I certainly hope we will. So that's what I wanted to share with you tonight. Thank you.